and the dealers are pressing it into our pills. It looks like a regular pill that you would get. You guys said before, it's a prescription. What's it going to hurt? The problem is the size of the tip of a pencil can kill you. You'll overdose. So, I mean, the amount of fentanyl we're talking about is minuscule. And so that's what the kids don't expect. They think they're taking an oxy or a hydro or a Valium, but it's been pressed with fentanyl and they die. Yeah. And then the parents are like, well, damn, I didn't know they used drugs. And now they're talking at the funeral, and it's like, well, hey, if we could just get ahead of this, if we could make some awareness out there, then we're doing our job.
Max, you work with youth. You work with them every day, and part of your job, man. What makes you nervous about what maybe the youth and their parents aren't ready for this kind of stuff, man? Hearing this kind of stuff, seeing it on the forefront of your porch in your communities, and it's coming. What messes with your mind about this, man?
Well, the first thing is Marissa showed us a picture of the deadly dose, and she had it next to a penny, and it was just a tiny little crumb. And I didn't know this. When she showed me that, I had no idea like how little it takes to be able to kill somebody. And that makes it a very scary thing. And I've talked to some of my players about it and warned them about it and said, hey, have you guys seen this around? What's going on? And some of my players have been honest with it. They go, yeah, it's even being laced in the marijuana that you get off the streets. It's being laced in there now. So anything you can get off the streets, and then they press these pills and they look exactly like an oxy, you don't know that it's in there. And so I've tried to bring awareness to the kids and talk about it and let them know and tell them, look, man, kids are dying left and right. This is not something that you want to mess with. I am so grateful it wasn't around when I was in the middle of mine. Yeah. Because I know for sure I would have probably gotten into it, and who knows if I'd be here today. It's just a scary, scary thing. So the biggest thing for me is awareness. These kids have to know what it is, what it does. And then the parents need to know. The parents have to be open and talk to the kids about it. It can't be taboo anymore. Like before, it was kind of like you kind of dance around it. But the parents, I mean, I have an 11-year-old son, and I've already talked to him about vaping, about drugs, and he knows all about it. So we have to start them at a young age, because sooner or later, you'd be surprised how young kids now are being exposed to it. I'm talking about junior high kids are being exposed to this stuff, and it's easy to get. It's cheap. And Brock, you were saying the other day how strong it is compared to heroin. It was like, what, 10 times stronger? What did you say about it? 100 times stronger than heroin.
And morphine. I think it's like 50 times more than morphine and 100 times more than heroin.
See, but what's crazy is like, back in the day when I was getting oxy, it was like $1 a milligram. So if you get a 30-gram oxy, it's $30. You can get the same high in heroin for $7. Now it's even cheaper to get this stuff. And so I can totally get it. Let's say you use it once and it feels good, you're high. Well, you don't know if the next time you use it, if it's going to kill you.
That's Russian roulette, isn't it?
Exactly.
And Brock, that's the big problem. You don't know how much is there.
No, because they're not in a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
They're not in a lab coat guy that knows the proper mixture. These are guys in the streets. Just
out in the jungle somewhere, right?
Yeah. And then it comes to our home. Max, you said something very valuable, man, and I hope some parents will like perk up right here. Listen, when you were a little kid or when you were using, it wasn't like it is today.
No.
Right? The marijuana back in the day, it was just people weren't overdosing, people weren't dying on it.
Mm-hmm.
Even cocaine and methamphetamines, we weren't hearing about people dying and overdosing. It was happening, but not at the alarming rate. Here's what I want to tell the parents and one of the parents. Check it out. Think about you when you were 15 years old, the impact other people had on you. Mm-hmm. Now, how many times did people talk us into doing something stupid? When we were 15 years old. Yeah. I mean, I'm 49 right now, I'll do it still. You know what I mean?
And that's what we're always trying to get Brock to do something, you know?
Right. But what I'm saying is, listen, at 15, if you were gullible, if you were game to try anything, think about the kids that you're raising today. They're going to do the same things. They want to fit in. They want to be a part of it. So parents, this is paramount that you're having these conversations. If you are worried today that your kid's on drugs, you're late.
Mm,
You're late. It's already happening.
yeah.
You know that it takes 2 years on average before parents realize their kids are having an issue.
Really?
It is very true. It's very
I didn't know
real. And it's average, sometimes more, sometimes less, but the majority of the time it's 2 years. Because remember, there's that tradition, right? You know, like your life becomes unmanageable. It doesn't happen all at once. Kids can explain things away really well. Like, hey, you're slipping into school. Like, oh yeah, it's a really hard subject. Or hey, I see you're changing friends. Oh yeah, those are the ones who are uptight. You're stuck up. Hey, I see you're isolating from our family. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And so by the time you notice, it could be too late. You've got to start now. Right? And I was talking to the principal there, and he was talking about like so many times they see things, but because of the situation, they can't always just assume and call every parent. And he's like, I really wish that we could, have some kind of program or something where parents can get very educated and learn on this subject. And he says, like, he talked to me specifically about a parent that was talking about how great their kid's car smells. It's this new cherry, strawberry, like air freshener. And he's like, you don't know, that's big, that's big juice. That's not a car freshener. And it's true, it's like there's so many things coming out so fast that parents, you gotta be on the up and up. But how hard is it to talk to Rex? And they're just little guys, right? I mean, Boston and Canada and our kids, we've had to really talk about pornography and all this kind of stuff. And they've seen it because that's what we've done with Addict, but it's like that's a special case. There are so many parents out there that haven't had this conversation with them because it couldn't happen to my kid, right? And what happens? It's their kid.
Exactly.
So how do we open this conversation? How do parents even approach kids? Because as fathers, it's one of the hardest things to talk to kids about sex, let alone with alcohol. You've got to do it, right? You've got to clear that hurdle. I mean, what advice, Brock? You got older kids. What do you do here, man?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We had that conversation, and for us, it's not hard because we've been there.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, it's a little easier to have that conversation. Like, hey, listen, sit down, and let's have a conversation about fentanyl.
Well, here's the thing. Hold on a second. We got to get deep on this. Let me give it a Brock term. Let's get real here. Max has a history. He knows what to look for. You have a law enforcement history, addiction history. You know what to look for. I'm a mental health therapist. I know how to process this out of my kids. What about the plumber? What about the stay-at-home mom? Like, how in the world do they approach this? They have no knowledge of this.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just because they're a plumber, they ain't dumb.
Yeah.
They've got experience in this. And so what I would say is,
they catch all the people flush it, right?
yeah. I would, that's funny, dude.
Yeah.
I would tell them to get educated. I mean, you can go online and find whatever bit of information you need. It's there. It's available to you, right? You can pull up pictures and get educated, and then go sit down with your kids and have a conversation. This isn't an inquisition. This is a conversation. Tell me what's going on. What are you seeing in school? What can I help you with? Like for me, I gave my kids an out. Early on, I think I've told you this before. I told my kids, I will test your ass. Okay, if you come home and I think you look crazy, but that's an out. Because if they're ever offered this, like, get a plan for your kids. So now when they're offered, they can say, guess what, my dad's crazy. He'll test me. He'll kill me if I come home using. So it's like we have these open conversations with our kids. The problem is we're not having them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how the conversation starts.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but have the conversation. Let them know, guys, I love you. I care about you. I'm worried about you. This stuff is real. It can kill you. We're seeing it. And we just pulled the information off the online and showed them pictures and said, have you seen this? And you can't even try it. Like back in the day, we could do stupid things and try. Today, kids are experimenting and dying.
Yeah. So Max, that's the question after you then. Rex comes in to me and he's like, hey Dad, I know some of my buddies, they've been doing this, doing that. What do you say to him? Because one of the teachers they mentioned to me while you were taking some photos, she said, I'm so happy that he didn't just talk about the addiction, he talked about being a good person and being that person for somebody else. I think when our kids come in and they're asking us questions about trying to support other kids, the knee-jerk reaction is, we'll just go hang out with that person. We can't teach our kids to do that, right? I mean, we don't want them to fall victim to it. We can't say isolate either. So Rex comes in and says, hey, I got a friend that I see that knows doing this. What advice do you give him?
I think first of all, you talk about the danger of it. You know what I mean? Hey, he's going through this, or you've seen him vaping. You need to do your research. Brock hit it right on the head, man. He was perfect. Do your research and know the dangers of it. Know the dangers of vaping or fentanyl or whatever. I mean, you can Google fentanyl. You can find articles of people. I mean, kids that have died, and go over that article with them. Talk about it because you got to understand. Most of us, you know, if you're a little bit older, what did you deal with in high school? It was probably like weed and drinking, right? None of this stuff was really around. That's what. But now all this stuff that's here, if you don't know about it, just like Brock said, research it, understand the dangers of it, and then you just have to be open about it and say, hey, I'm hearing this is affecting a lot of kids. Where are you at as far as seeing this or doing it? And the other thing that I think is important is kids need to understand, or they need to feel comfortable. Like your kids need to feel comfortable talking with you. Like you have to let them know, look, I'm not going to throw you out of the house if this is going on. I want to help you. Okay. If you got a friend doing it, yeah, we don't want to alienate them, but at the same time, you have to tell them to be careful around it because I mean, just like me, they have a bad day and they're over at a buddy's house and they say, here, this will make you feel better. It's easy to just be like, you know what, screw this. Yeah, give me that. Give me that right now. And so understanding the dangers of it, explaining that to them, explaining how it's killing kids, maybe scaring them a little bit, you know, about the dangers of it, but also knowing, hey, you can talk to me about this. Even if you fall into it, come talk to me about it. And developing that relationship with your kids can be hard, but it is necessary. So just sitting down with them and having a blunt conversation, I think, is the first thing to do.
So without getting too in depth, Brock and I were having a conversation last night about family secrets, and we're talking about how when a family member struggles with something, if we don't talk about it as a family, then what are we going to gain? It's a sad, scary thing to sometimes talk about, but families cannot stop or suppress this kind of stuff. They've got to say, hey, you know, your brother, you know, he has a drinking problem, and this is what this is. This is how we're going to help him. I've done podcasts with a gal who lost her daughter to a heroin overdose, and she says one of the hardest things was to get people to talk about it with her, and to talk to your younger daughter about it, because now your sister's gone. It's important to be able to talk about this kind of stuff without being afraid that it's going to hurt, and so therefore we suppress it. Like I've seen families suffer because they're afraid to talk about this kind of stuff. What's the outcome if we just suppress all this kind of stuff and leave that elephant very much in the middle of the room, pretending not to notice it? What do you think?
Well, I think it happened to me in my addiction. You know, when some of my family, when my wife, some of my family members, I manipulated them. I said, we have to keep this a secret. This is going to ruin reputation. This is going to do that. That can't be the case. It's way less taboo, like I said, than it used to be. And doesn't mean you have to go tell everybody, oh, my son or daughter is like struggling and going through this. But there are people out there that they can talk to get information. I mean, call up Blue, say, hey, I think my son or daughter's doing this, and what do I do? And get some counsel. There's lots of resources out there that you can take advantage of. And so, I mean, that's what I would say is you just have to do your research and understand that it's okay to talk about it, even if your kid's uncomfortable. I think the more that you kind of bring it up and talk about it, the easier it's going to be.
I think moms know first. I know that sounds crazy, but I think moms pay attention. How many times did your mom go through your clothes and find something?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Mom back there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many times do they find something like, okay, guess what? They want to handle this with you.
Mhm.
We're not going to tell dad.
Mhm.
I can remember times that happened to me.
Yeah.
Right. And what she was doing was, hey, you and I are going to handle this. We're not going to talk about it again. We're going to sweep it under the rug, and it's going to be done.
And she's thinking that's going to protect.
And
You know what I
she's
mean?
thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to protect my kid. And really you're doing the opposite, right?
Yes.
I think so. I think you're just masking the problem and never getting into it to where we can fix the problem, right?
Right. And you moms are finding this stuff. You're seeing this stuff in your kids' clothes, on their bodies, the smells like you're talking about. You know what's happening, but I think we're scared to confront it.
Absolutely, because I think on a therapeutic level, we're nervous about not being able to fix it. And so it's kind of like outside of my mind. And I think what happens is it's a natural breakdown of communication. And in order to do that, you can't just start at the problem. Guys, this stuff has to happen the moment they're born. And so when you address these kind of things, it's about taking that soft approach. It's about not being judgmental. It's about saying, hey, I'm here with you. It's our natural inclination is to get mad. You guys notice that when something scares us, especially dads, parents, that fear, we turn it into anger so fast. And so then we're chewing our kids out, we're upset with them, it's like, no, it's because we're scared. And so listeners, kids, if you listen to this, parents, if you're having an impulse, slow down a little bit. It is a serious situation. Remember, when our daughter Savannah gets her license, and 2 days later she gets in an accident, and she calls on the phone and tells us, where are you? And then when Marissa said that, oh my gosh, where are you? And we knew exactly what happened. So I'm thinking, blood, guts, horrible. And I go there and it's just a little glance, broken tail light, But the impulse is to get mad. Like, why is that such an impulse for parents to get mad? And kids, if you're listening to this, if your parents react this way, let's start getting into the fear. Why do we react? Brock, you see this in law enforcement. Why do people react in fear? Why does it come out as anger?
Man, I don't think I really know the exact.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
no, it reminds me of that amazing Dane Cook skit, B&E. If you haven't listened to it, I recommend it highly. Please do it edited because I don't want you to come back and blame me for the words. But there's a funny part when Dane Cook does this B&E of breaking and entering, kicks the door open, and as the family they drive up, and the dad gets out of the car, he's got to go check it, and he starts screaming at his kids, wait! And he starts going off like he thinks this is assertive control. Like, I don't know why we do that as parents, but we always have to take control. The problem is we're taking control of a situation we know nothing about. Because most people have never, ever experienced drugs in their home. And then the first time it happens, we panic because we have no plan. And some of it's, the kid ends up dying. And the parents are like, I had no idea this kid was on drugs. I didn't know it. And maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was the first time. And you're hearing stories. I mean, go Google it. First time fentanyl use, and they're dying. And so I think that's what we're trying to warn people about is before it happens, let's have these conversations. And parents, we gotta be mature. We gotta be ready to have these conversations. We gotta be armed. Because if you don't think it's happening, you just like the gentleman we spoke to today, it's happening. It's gonna be in your community. Prepare for it.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing I think is cool about your short too, Max, is that there were people that I'm sure were upset, but they didn't come at you as anger.
No.
And I think that is a very conscious decision to be made.
Yeah.
And I'm going to approach this with calm. If that means that you take a deep breath and then invest parents, that's what you have to do because that will make or break the relationship, won't it? I mean, you've all seen when parents have failed this because they come in like a tornado, and then the kids get scared, they climb up and they lie, and then the situation gets put under a rug. Versus what happens when the calm approach is taken and the care and the attention is given. Do you see the completely opposite outcomes that can come from something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of when, my son Rex makes a mistake. It's hard because your initial reaction is to get mad. Like, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? Like, how could you do that? That's the knee-jerk reaction. And I was fortunate with my dad. I don't know how he did it, but I knew he was coming from a place of love. And he would tell me that. Before we would get into the subject or the argument, he would tell me, Max, I love you. Okay. And we need to talk about this. I remember the first talk about pornography, about the first talk when he found out I was using drugs in high school and all that stuff. It was never like a scream and yell. And that gave me more respect for my dad. And it gave me more confidence that I could be honest with him and kind of tell him what's going on. So parents, when you find this out, take a second, right? Take a break and let's figure out the best way that we communicate with our kids from a loving place. Because, I relate it to coaching, right? Kids want to play for a coach they know loves them and wants their best interest. No one wants to play for the coach that's just mean and yells and is just a total jerk all the time, right? I don't want to tell that coach anything. But if I have a parent or a coach who I know loves me and has my best interest in, I feel like when something comes up, I can be a little bit more honest with them, right?
100%.
You hit something valid right there. Blu, there's parents out there that just don't have the capacity to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Capacity to talk about it. That's a big one.
And they don't have it. So guess what? Go get somebody that kid is in love with.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's someone, it's other, Johnny's dad, right? That he has a great relationship. You don't have to start the conversation, but you have to be mature enough to handle it when it comes. And so I love that, man. I mean, there was times where my parents were not the first line. I did not want mom and dad to know. But I always had someone in my life that I could go talk to, that I could at least bounce these ideas off. And I felt like they could help me out, right? And I think that's what we're asking. Like, if you're not the right person, your child has that right person in their life.
Yeah.
Get them in contact with them.
Yeah, and I've had opportunities to do that. I've had parents text me or call me and say, "Hey, my kid's struggling. Would you be able to reach out to him?" And I'll sit them down. I'll be like, "Dude, look, I want you to know right now I love you and I don't judge you at all. I am not going to judge you. I'm here to help you. So if you've done something, it's probably nothing that I haven't done." Now, some parents don't have that ability to say that. They haven't been through it. But still, if you tell them, "Look, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to judge you. I love you. Let's talk about it." And if you come from that place, I think they're going to be more willing to be open. But I mean, I think of my dad and how it happened. I think of how I've handled players, and you are totally right. Sometimes as a parent, somebody else can help, and it's got to be somebody that you trust and that your kid has a relationship with. So find that person if you need to, right? I think it's a great point.
Well, here's what on with the capacity part. I really want to drill down on that a little bit more, because in this day and age where there's so much going on, there's so much competing for parent attention. You look at single parent homes, right? I mean, they're doing all they can just to get their, the bills paid and whatnot. When Brock talks about the capacity that you may not have, that doesn't mean that you don't have the desire. The desire is there. I know that. But there's things when you are yourself maybe in your own addiction. Maybe you have so much stress or so much stuff going on that you physically and emotionally cannot take this on. That is when it's time to start reaching out for help. And we all know that asking for help is one of the hardest things to do. But if your child sees you not asking for help when you need it, guess what they're going to not do when they need it? How are they going to know how, right? And then it becomes this like multi-generational issue where we just kind of accept that this is the way life is and it sucks. Bro, I think you're spot on. I'm curious though, why did you go there with that capacity? Because I think it's a bigger deal than we think it is.
Well, because we're not equipped with all the tools.
We're not supposed to know everything?
No, and parents, I mean, I know how I felt. I remember a time when my daughter wanted me to help her with math. Yeah, I think it was like 6th grade math. I am dyslexic as hell. And let me be real with you here. When they added letters to numbers, I'm like, what the hell is this? And we're doing this in 6th grade? Come on, man. I'm graduated. I'm out. And they're like, Dad, I need help. And I'm like, girl, I can't help you. I don't have the capacity. Like, I don't even know this math. And so they're like, no, Dad, come on, help. Dude, I remember her bringing the paper back the next day. No, she did not ask for my help again. Like, all the answers were wrong. I'm like, man, I told you, like, I don't know this stuff. And it was a legit concern. And so parents, this is a big thing. Yeah. When you think your son's drinking or using drugs or looking at pornography, man, it's the capability. Like, how do I broach this conversation? Like, I've never experienced it. A lot of parents haven't. But the parents like us, obviously, we're probably really good at it. Mm-hmm. We have a bank of stories that we can reach in and we can talk about. But these other topics are difficult, man. And so it's okay to reach out and find somebody better than you.
You bring up a good point. I want both your opinions on this. Is it problematic or do you think it's detrimental to have too much conversation about this with your kids? Meaning, like, I remember, before I had kids and go to school and stuff, I would talk to some of my school colleagues and whatnot. They're like, I'm just my kids everything. Like, you sure that's a good idea? Like, everything? Like, that's, age appropriate? Like, they were very gung-ho on making sure that their kids do everything about their own addiction. What do you think about that? Is there sharing too much?
Dude, if you don't mind, Max, but I know you have something heavy on your mind, but let me tell you a story. So, my first wife and I, our relationship was a disaster as it ended up. I had done some things that were just terrible, okay, that I've shared on the podcast before. But I remember I went to my leader in the church and we sat down and I was open with him what I had done. And he's like, you need to tell her everything. And I remember my head thinking, are you freaking nuts?
Right.
Like, if I tell her all this, then that's just something she's gonna have to carry the rest of her life. And it was heavy, dude. And a lot of it had to do with her, and it affected her. And he had been a bishop like 2 months. So I'm not sure this was probably the first person, and I probably ruined him. Like, honestly, like, he was like, I got nothing.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember the conversation was heavy, and he's like, you got to go home and tell her. And I remember on the way home, I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I want to be faithful to this guy. I want to follow what he, because he's the guy, right?
Yeah.
It backfired on me. It was probably in my mind, even today, the worst decision I've ever made. Because I could have just like plainly told her what really happened. I didn't need to go into like detail.
Yeah.
And then about a year later, I went to another guy in church, the guy that's higher than him, stake president, and I told him, and he just shook his head. He goes, "That was dumb." And I'm like, "Where were you?" I'm like, "Where were you?" And he goes, "You don't need to tell people everything, right? You need to be clean. You need to come out and tell them, but." Why do they need all those great details? And so that I hope that answers your question. For me, man, we don't have to talk about everything we've done. I think we are very open on this podcast. We talk about stuff. I look back and I'm like, damn, I cannot believe I just shared that.
Mhm.
But it's shared in hopes that we can help somebody else that they're going through it. They can grasp and say, man, I need this in my life. But your kids, is it age appropriate? Are you telling the right person? Is it a war story? Is it something that's keeping your past alive? I mean, you really got to do some evaluation on that.
Even if there's still things, even with as much as you do say, that you don't share. I know that, right? Like, I mean, you're an open book. I know you, but there's still things that like that's still a little too personal, a little too raw.
Yeah, especially on the podcast. Yeah, I mean, if you can give me a loan, I don't think there's anything I will talk about. You know what I mean? And but for me, it's healing, right? But not for everybody. They don't all need to do that. But for me, it's seeing it has worked thus far.
When Max yours came out very public, you talked about this today. What's speaking with you, yours was very public. I mean, but still, there's still things that you probably keep close to your heart because they're things that you don't need to share.
Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, it's a very fine line. It's a very fine line because I think when you do share some of that, your kid will be like, "Oh, Dad's not perfect either. He's made mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes." But I also see, how he's overcome those mistakes. So I had the experience when I had to tell my kids, because they were getting to the age where I'm like, I know they're going to find out. And I remember there was one time, like, my kids have that Alexa, and what they were Googling, they're like Max Hall, you know what I mean? And I'm like, because the first page on my Google, I always tell people go to page 2, but sooner or later they're going to find out, and I'd rather them come from me. So I told them, I said, hey, Dad was arrested. Dad had an addiction, and I had to overcome that. I didn't go into details. I didn't tell them about, sitting in parking lots and shooting up drugs. I wasn't going to go there, but they needed to know that I went through something hard. And so if you can share some sort of story, whether it's in addiction or drugs or another one where they've done something stupid, don't go into detail, but say, yeah, man, I've made mistakes. I've done stupid things. And I want you to know that that's okay. And you can talk about them. And I think if you take that approach, and there's a fine line there, and you guys are exactly right. Details do not need to be shared. I think that you can develop a relationship to where, they feel like, oh, well, if he's made mistakes, maybe he won't judge me for any mistakes that I've made. And then it makes that conversation a little bit more easier.
You're going to be amazed how many parents don't share this kind of stuff with their kids. And I'm not talking about just the addiction portion, so people eloquently answer that question. But even things about like childhood, what put you in those situations. Like I think I told you guys in the podcast before about the time I took my kids, we were with 7 Peaks. They didn't know that I had scars on my back from a very angry stepdad. And I remember them questioning that. And I remember trying to explain to them, like, ooh, yeah, like this is super intense. But if I would have climbed up and not told them, it would have always wondered, like, you can tell your kids can talk to a lion to them. But on the opposite side of that, I work with people in addiction recovery who actually use with their parents. I think that is the absolute lowest of low. And when I hear that, that is like the ultimate disrespect. But then I find out why, and it's that almost 100% of the time it's because that's how they bonded. That to me, that crushes me. You've heard this, you know this. When you hear that, how does a parent-child relationship become healed? I mean, I've got my own thoughts on it. When you've gone to that point, I mean, I can't imagine sitting down with my kids and teaching them how to roll a joint, or cut the perfect line. I can't even fathom that. When you hear that kind of stuff, how does it land on you?
It's silly. I remember my mom and dad. I'm sure our parents were the same generation. So my mom and dad used to say, "Don't use, but if you do want to use, let's use together. Bring it home, and we'll just experience it together." Now that was probably a tool that my parents had heard about, but I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me? I'm not gonna use my parents. I'm not gonna do that." But it was a tool. Yeah, I have heard that. I don't know if that's the lowest that people go, but I have heard it's a way to bond, and but don't we bond in other ways too? I mean, it's no different. It's how we're raised. It's how our parents were raised. And we look at it. My dad early on in our relationship, and as a parent, he used to be physical with us with the belt, right? That was kind of his thing. Because he was physical, his dad was physical with him, right? And so it almost rolls downhill into learned behavior. And if you don't break that, if whether it's positive or negative change, it's going to continue with it's generational, especially in addiction. It's generational, alcoholism, generational. If we don't take someone and say, "Hey, I'm going to break this."
So that's the concept of do as I say, not as I do, right? Or do it with me. You gotta have a strong sense of, I think, emotional integrity to be able to, to say, well, look, you're gonna put this way. I notice this a lot where family systems have an alcoholic in the family, but yet they celebrate with alcohol and drinking. And they're like, well, I'm not gonna change what I'm doing for Thanksgiving or for a holiday to have you come over here. They're like, why should we all be dry? What do you say with those situations, right? I mean, there's so many intricate parts of these family systems that can completely either be supportive or dysfunctional. How in the world do you approach some of these things, right? Because again, we have the luxury now of not having it around, but there's a lot outside of Utah that have these issues. How do we teach the person not to take that stuff personal, but also like to teach their parents, this is how I need to be treated? Because even as we turn into adults, we still have to teach people how to treat us, right?
Well, I have something to say. First of all, that bond that you think you have with substance is 100% false. 100%. Because I remember in my addiction, there were some guys that I would use with, and we would use and then be like, "I love you, brother," and like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought I had this bond with them. It was so false. It was so false because as soon as I didn't have drugs, they're like gone. You know what I mean? So, and you bring up that situation like, hey, why should I change what I'm doing just because you've struggled with this? I get that, and I'm not saying that you need to change, but if you're around that person, you have to be conscious of it. I mean, maybe even being open and honest with it, like, hey, if some of us, have some wine at dinner, is that going to bug you? Is that going to be an issue for you? And if it is, we don't have to do it. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. If you really love that person, you're going to be willing to make some sacrifices for it. But to have a parent use with a kid, you're developing a false sense of love, in my opinion, a totally false sense of love to where they're dependent on a bond with you based on a substance, not out of pure love coming from the heart. In fact, in my opinion, that ruins it. It completely ruins it because you have less respect for that parent or that peer or whoever you're doing it with, because like I said, it's just a false thing. And when you're on, or when you're intoxicated, or when you're high, that's all fake. You know what I'm saying? Like you get the feeling, you get the high, or you get a little buzzed, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh man, you're my buddy, I love you," and it's just like, dude, that is the alcohol or the drugs talking. That is not coming from a really authentic, genuine place. So it blows my mind that you can do that. But I get that it's happened and people make mistakes. So where do you go from there? After that has happened? Shoot, I don't know. That's a
that is a
tough one, Blue. I mean, that takes therapy, that takes counseling, that takes separating and working on yourself and then coming together and apologizing and acknowledging that that was not the right thing to do and we need to be better. So, I mean, that is a very, very tough one.
It is. It's hard, and sometimes, I mean, and unfortunately, I've had to do this in my own life. Sometimes we have to separate ourselves from the people and the things that are causing pain, even if it's in the family system. And that's a hard, a hard road to hoe, because I've had to walk away from family members because I'm not safe.
Yeah.
But I haven't just wallowed in, but I don't have been able to create something that I wanted of my own. And I said this on a podcast recorded with a gal that lets us know was an amazing speaker. And I said, it's a privilege to have a relationship with us. It's not a right. I feel that same way about our kids. It's a privilege. It's not a right. People say parental rights. Yeah, that's great for legal terms. It's a privilege to have a relationship with them. So you better be careful with it. You better go with it delicately. But I think if we seriously teach this to the listeners, to some of the folks out there about how delicate these relationships are, how fragile they can become if we, don't handle them with care, the end result is, as a parent, you're going to be alone. You're going to miss a great opportunity. You're going to miss an amazing experience. You guys know this. You look at these kids and you're like, there's no way I could think about walking away from this, even if it means me having to change my behaviors and things that I want to do. I think we're here because of relationships, and that's exactly what we saw today at the school. So exactly what we try to emulate through the podcast, through our own endeavors as parents. Brock, how important it is at the end of the day, you maintain the relationships that you create with parents. You maintain them with love.
Ooh, probably the wrong guy to ask. Because I really am. I'm still building relationships. In active addiction, tore down those relationships. And what's interesting, my younger kids, I think I have a great relationship with. My older kids that were really affected by the addiction and saw the addiction and saw the behaviors. But the crazy part was they could never pinpoint on if this was dad's addiction. They just remember the root word "dick." That's remember that, right? That I was a yeller and I didn't treat them always the greatest. I mean, I think I was loyal. I was always there with their games, supported financially and all that stuff. But there's so much more depth than just being present.
Well, let's get real, because I'm with you on that, and I'll tell you why. Because my own relationship with my mother is not good. It's very emotionally damaging. It's very absent, very neglectful, right? But I think she does things that you don't do. And that is, she never cares, she never reaches out, she never makes attempts, she doesn't remember the small things. So for me, I'm thinking, all right, as a kid who has a mother that you would almost feel like you're painting yourself into, you're doing something different though. And your older kids, I think they have that mindset, but what are you doing, Brock, that shows them that you love them anyway? Even if and because. And then Dr. Paul says it, right?
Yeah.
Even if, no matter what, you love them.
Yeah.
It's you know that too.
I think it's the things they don't see a lot of times. You know, maybe the prayers that we throw up as a family,
like if one of them was to be listening, all of them were to be listening right now, Brock, how would you translate that love to them to know that, like, guys, yeah, that's. I mean, I'd give anything to my mom listen to this, she'd be like, wow, that's kind of heavy. Maybe I should reach out and apologize or say something or like check in.
That's heavy.
Well, you're the one that's going to go real.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're throwing out there, bro. You know, it's kind of cool that our relationship is getting better, but they've seen my weaknesses, right? I told you guys I had an experience a couple weeks ago where an incident that I did in active addiction came back and haunted me with one of my daughters, and because she heard one of the podcasts, and she's like, "Dad," and she was affected deeply by it, and I couldn't. There's no words that describe that. Like, I can't say I'm sorry. Like that really doesn't fit. And I wish it didn't happen. It did. I can't take that back. And so all I can do is tell them and demonstrate that I'm available to them. You know, that time is a big thing because you can't take it back. And so They know I love them because I tell them I love them. So that's not a secret. They're all over the place. They live in different towns. But when they need dad, dad's there.
He's there.
And that's where I think I shine.
I agree with that. I agree. What do you think, Max?
Along with that too is like if you're in that situation, you tell them, they know what's happened, it's come up, and you say, look, I have to own that. I have to deal with that, what I've done, and I'm sick about it. And they have to forgive you on their own time sometime. And you can't force the issue. And so that's a really tough one. I've never been in that situation, Brock, and I'm sure that's tough to go through, but that's the only way I see it is you have to be honest. You have to explain how it has also affected you. You understand how it's affected your kids, and say, listen, I want your forgiveness, but I also understand that takes time. But I'm here for you. I do anything for you. I love you. And I think that's really important. But as we're talking about this, I'm thinking, man, there's things I can do better as a dad. I'm thinking right now, and Mackenzie's laughing at this, or you will laugh at this. She's sitting here, but one thing with Rex is I'm trying to get him not to drink soda. You know what I mean? And I'm like, hey, soda's going to make you slow on the basketball court or the football field. I don't want him drinking soda at a young age, but we let him drink it once in a while. But we'll go out to dinner or something. I'll order a Coke, and he'll be like, Dad, can I get a root beer? I'm like, no. You're not drinking that. And he goes, well, you got this. And I say, well, because I'm the dad. When you're the dad one day, you can do whatever you want, but I'm the dad. That's not right. That was not the right answer to him. It's not.
Why not?
And, so I got to look back at it and be like, you want to know what? Yeah, we're not drinking soda together. Let me help you. Let me support you in this, and not just be like, well, I'm the parent, so you got to listen to me or you got to do what I say. Like it needs to be a different approach. So I'm listening to this like, holy cow, there's things I can do better. And little things that I can do better to where my kids feel like they're supported by me. And it's like what you just said, do as I say, not as I do. I'm sitting there just downing Coke, and I'm like, no, you can't have root beer,
I love that, man. I totally, and we all do that.
Yeah.
We all do that, But I think to go a little further, we all have affected our kids.
Yeah.
We've all affected them in the positive and the negative by behaviors that we've demonstrated in the past, and we will do in the future because we're not perfect. But I believe, to answer your question, Blue, is the living amends. What we do from here.
Mhm.
Yesterday doesn't matter, it's gone. I can't change it. But how do I live my life today?
Mhm.
Do they get triggered by my behaviors? Or do they say, man, Dad has changed.
Mhm.
He has really used his experiences and he's pivoted. And I love that. Right? It still sucks. Like you said, there's still things in the past where, like, man, I can't change it.
Yeah.
But at least they can say, look at him today. Look what he's doing today. Look how he's helping people. And because we could have all buckled. We could all be that dude that's not here, or that's the non-existent parent.
Mhm.
Like what you got, Blue. I mean, it's hard. But I that's it, man. It's the way we live our lives today.
Living amends is kind of a deep principle. Listen, I really want you to drill down on that, because what Brock's saying is that, yeah, you can't go back and fix yesterday. And tomorrow it is kind of up. But right now, what are you doing? It's like we talk about, Max talk about all the time. The next step right now. Going for the win. What's important now? Listeners, if you can do that, even if you find yourself in the most dark tunnel, the most deep hole, you can pull yourself out. Because it's about, like, what am I doing right now? That's a big deal, Brock. I don't know where you conjured that up, but I love it because that speaks volumes to what you can actively do to change your relationship with your kids, with your relationship with God, with friends and family. What are you doing right now? And like multiple experiences of those, that's what I think can redeem people. And you can't force your kids or your family to forgive you. Like, that's a hard one too. They're going to do it, like Max said, on their own time. And they may even do it without even you even knowing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be like a big celebratory kind of like ticker tape parade with, I forgive you. It's going to be small things. It's going to be, little investments, and you may not recognize it at first, but it'll just feel like it's working.
Yeah, and let me add that just a tad. Not everybody's going to give that to you.
Oh, it's true.
I mean, honestly, like your kids, those people that really love you and want to see growth, they're gonna extend that hand to you. But other people, you can change the world. They still don't love you. That's okay. That's okay. Does that make sense? I have people in my life that I've affected deeply, and I still have this living amends. I'm trying to do good things. I'm trying to be present. I'm trying to help, but they still don't forgive me.
How do you wrap your head around that? Like, how do you? I mean, this is kind of a funny thing, but do you lose sleep over that?
Not a minute.
Why?
Because I can't change it. It's been 13, it's been 15, 16, I don't even know how many years it's been. But I can't change their heart. Right? I can't manipulate it. I can't do anything different. I mean, I could give them $1 million and they'd still hate me.
Yeah.
Because I affected them. I hurt them at a time in their life where they needed me. And so I just want people, people go through recovery and they expect everybody like, oh man, you're amazing, you're beautiful, I love you. And there's people there like, dude, I still don't trust you.
Yeah.
And so we just gotta keep that, and we gotta keep working. Maybe that's what drives me, is those people that hate me. And maybe that sounds a little bit callous, but I want to do big things. I want to do more. I want to help more people because I still feel like I'm living that amends.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. Max, what do you think about that term, like living amends? It's a big deal.
It is a big deal, and it's very hard to do. It's a difficult topic to talk about. It really is, because like Brock said, you can do everything you can to make that amend, and it may not make a difference. And the hard part to do after that is just to let it go. Say, I'm going to do everything I can to try to make this amend, and at the end of the day, that's on them. If they're willing to forgive me and work through that, I appreciate that. But if they're not, I can't let that affect me. I can't let that change who I am or what I'm trying to do, because I've done everything I can. Now it's on them. Now they can decide to forgive me or not. I'm not going to treat them any different. I'm still going to be the same guy, but it's like they have to do it on their own time, and they may never forgive you. I still have people out there that say things about me. They just can't get over it. And I mean, it's so hard to do that, and it's so hard to let go, especially when maybe it's a loved one or somebody close to you or somebody you used to be a friend with, and they're just not willing to get over it. And you have to find a way to be okay with that and let it be done on their time. As long as you do everything you can and you can be at peace with it, that's the whole thing. You got to be at peace. If you're not at peace, you're always going to struggle. So do what you can, understand that you're at peace, and who knows, maybe one day they'll have a change of heart. Maybe they won't. Yeah.
I love that fact too, because I look at Marissa and Kinsey over there, and I'm like, those are our living amends too. Like, we are still doing things to make sure that we never re-expose anything that we've done to hurt them again too. That's a big deal. When you were talking today, you started to get kind of emotional talking about it, and you said to her, this is still hard. And I'm like, yeah, that's a living amend right there. That's you still recognizing that, yeah, this is still hard. So it resonated with me, Max, that you were still living as if it was still happening. So it's like, it really sucks. I never want that to happen again. And I'm glad it was still hard. To me, I think it's a living amend, don't you think? Like, you still feel the magnitude of that feeling despite how long it's been in between. It shows real, genuine, I think, emotional strength. What do you think? Did you hear her say that?
I did, and I saw Kinsey. That was cool. Yeah, you can tell. I think they both feel it. You know what I mean? They both. Max was actually he caused the effect, but she was affected by it.
Did you feel that?
Yeah. And I'm sure there's still days when she's like, I can't believe where we're at today.
Marissa and I say that all the time.
Yeah. And I say that to myself. I'm like, dude, like it's too good.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for something bad to happen. The ball to drop and go back and like it was, because it is. It's like, man, this feels really good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that, Max. That people have to feel it, but I know men, I know women that, because they're not forgiven, that buckles them.
Yeah.
They said, dude, I've done all this work. Look at me. I'm so different. And you don't accept me. Well, I'm going to go back and drink. And it was like, that was the reason for them to get sober. And it's like, dude, you've missed the boat, man. Like, you missed the whole journey in this. So I'm glad you said, I hope there's people out there. There are people out there I know right now that are shaking their head going, damn, that was me. I've been there. I thought this person was going to forgive me. They didn't, so now I'm right back where I was.
Yeah.
Well, then without opening Pandora's box, I know we're almost out of time here. I do want to spend just a little bit of time on this, and because after all of that said and done, there's still that factor of forgiving ourselves. We are pursuing forgiveness from everybody else. When do we truly forgive ourselves? Because I know there are people that go through lifetimes without truly recognizing that emotionally weightlifting experience of self-forgiveness. Why do you think we're typically the last ones or to be forgiven within ourselves? Why do you feel like or understand the concept of we're the last ones to give ourselves forgiveness?
Guilt and shame. Guilt and shame. And, you know, even though we've been through it, we've gotten out of it, our relationship is great right now, there's still things that will trigger her. Things will come up. I might act a certain way, right? I might do something. And to Kenzie's credit, she'll bring it up. She'll be like, hey, I'm triggered right now. And I give her a little bit of space and we talk through it. And I think that's key that as far as that communication. But I say this all the time. Nobody else is going to get you sober. Until you understand that you have to do it for you and your quality of life and your self-forgiveness, only then can the true road to recovery start. And so until you can do that, nothing else is going to matter. Like as much as I love Kenzie and my kids, it's not just doing it for them.
No.
Because I have to be at peace, just like what I said, I have to be at peace with myself. Otherwise, this thing is not going to work. You know how hard that was for me to forgive myself for that?
Man.
Like I held on to that for a while and I had to work on that and be able to say, you know, look, I did those things. I have to, and my biggest thing is you got to own it. Look, I own it. I admit that I did it. And I've done everything I can for restitution after that. And then I can work on my relationships. And once other people see that, they're going to be more prone to forgive you and say, you know what, he's been working his butt off. He's gotten help. He's okay with where he's at right now. I appreciate that. And then it's going to be easier for people to start to move on and develop those lines of communication going forward. But I mean, I don't know how long it's been. It's what, 5, 6, I don't even know how long. Things still come up. And we have a strong enough communication outlet for each other that we can work through that. But just one more time, until you do it for you, and it's not going to happen because just like you said, oh, okay, you don't want to forgive me. Fine, screw this. Why am I doing this? I'm out. So
I think I'm a little different than Max right there. I still haven't totally forgiven myself for everything I've done.
Really?
Yeah, there's still some things that I'm embarrassed by. I'm like, damn. Like I think that's something that God and I are gonna have to maybe discuss when we get face to face. But I mean, I think I'm forgiven, but I never forget.
Right.
You know, and I think keeping that fresh in my mind, like, hey, if you make this decision, it's going to take you back. And that's what people don't understand is like, every decision you make determines the outcome, determines where you're at next. Because in active addiction, that one decision, we were in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? We were in trouble. I mean, one decision to walk into Best Buy, the next decision you're on a corner getting ready to commit suicide.
Right.
And that's what people don't understand, the depths of this forgiveness thing. And it takes a little bit of time for you to really forgive yourself. You almost have to develop win after win after win. And you're like, okay, I think I'm getting this. And so I'm not totally there yet. I like
you on that.
Yeah, me too.
You on that because you feel it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that you've been forgiven? Like, do you think God's forgiven you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so how much pride are you carrying around that He's forgiven you, but you're not letting it go? That's pride, man.
I don't know if it's pride
Oh,
or
it is. You're saying, I know better than you, God, that
No.
I'm not forgiven.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Max,
Okay.
you hold it, Max.
I agree. You're holding on to shame and guilt.
Oh, absolutely.
You're holding on to that, dude.
But
But what's amazing, real quick, Brock, look how well Brock's doing.
Oh, yeah.
So listeners, listen to this. However many years you've been sober, you're doing well, you're doing all these things, yet he's still holding on. And that just shows you how deep it can be and how hard it can be. So even though he's had a change of heart and he's doing things, he's beating himself. You're beating yourself up, dude.
Yeah, I probably am.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about a fear that I don't want to go back. So if I can keep that a little bit, it's a motivator.
Have you listened to the Agents of Recovery podcast?
I totally do forgive myself, and I'm thankful that there's the atonement, and I 100% know that God loves me, and I am forgiven. But I don't want to get to the part in my life where I feel like I got this.
And for you, Brock, I think that does work. I'm not gonna drag you across the coals anymore, because now I get what you're saying. That's your ability to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah,
And it's like, I never want to go that deep again, so I'm going to carry this. Even though Max and I are like, brother, you don't have to. Because for me, guys, I do. And I think, listeners, that's kind of the point here, too, is like, as much as I know Max and I want Brock to, like, unpack that, it's yours to carry.
Yep.
It kind of hurts us, because, like, damn, dude, you know, come on, man.
Yep.
But I also think it's like, that's what works for you.
Yeah, it's not keeping me from growth. It's not keeping me in active addiction even mentally,
Yeah.
but it keeps me humble.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
I can dig that. I still want to be Brock. You can
We're gonna keep chipping away.
you can never forget. But I think I mean, I don't forget. I don't forget the things that I've done. And it still makes me sick if I think about them. But I have to, it goes back to owning it, dude. I did it. Okay. God's forgiven me. I've gone through the process. I have to be able to let that go a little bit, but you don't have to forget the things that you've done and how it's caused, you know, that's mine. Like, I think back of everything that I've done, all the people I've hurt, and it makes me sick, but I have to be, look, dude, I did it. Like, I can't change it. I did it. So I got to work. And it goes back to yourself. I got to work on myself to just think, okay, I own that. I have to work through that, but I'm never going to forget it, dude. I'm never going to forget the pain that I've caused. And that's one thing that's going to help me, you know, that's one thing I'm going to keep in my head that's going to keep me from going back. But I mean, but let me do my last point. Everybody has to do what works for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody's story, everybody's recovery is different. And if you find something that keeps you that way, for Brock, you know, he hasn't quite forgiven himself yet, but that keeps him in a certain space to where he's like, man, I'm never going back to that. It can be somewhat healthy, even though we want him to let go of it. But if it works for Brock, who am I to tell him that you're wrong? You know?
And I like it. I see what you guys are saying, but I still feel like until my amends are made with my kids and that relationship's back to where it needs to be, I'm okay carrying it. You know, because I hurt them in a very pivotal part of their life. You know, and just being an absentee father, just not being in the home with them and helping raise them. That sucks. I mean, I have to own that.
And you're still going through it.
Yeah,
that's what's tough about it. You're still going through it.
Still going through it.
Yep.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm going to carry it until I'm not.
There you go.
Yeah, right. And listeners, that's kind of the message that we want to share with you guys, is that if you've heard, we went from some experiences we had all the way into this deep kind of emotionally based.
How do we get to
these
places? Is what I want to know, man.
I think two people over here before we start recording, like, what do we talk about? You know, we got to do it. But I think this is exactly where the conversation needed to go today. And I love that about you guys, that we're able to have these deep conversations, knowing that there's listeners out there that are sharing the same feelings. So, yeah, I think it's been intense. Final words to you guys. Let's wrap this thing up. How do you encapsulate everything? Because we've all had some amazing experiences this weekend so far. We're carrying the message, we're serving. How important is it for you guys to serve under your inconvenience? Because it's not convenient to drive to Delta, Utah. But that community, I watched just them melt around all of us. It was wild. Like, we were coming to support you, and also we're being treated like gold. Like, hey, we're just here to hang out with Max. How important is it for you to serve under your inconvenience? Because you guys both had to make a long trip here to get here.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on serving out of inconvenience.
Because they knew we were there to help.
Yeah.
They knew we were there to help and to share our knowledge and experiences, to hopefully reach out to everybody that was there. And that's why they were appreciative for you guys being there. I mean, when I told them you guys were coming, they were like, for real? They're coming? I'm like, yeah, they're going to come and hang out and do all that. They're like, oh man, that is so cool. Like, and you know, in Delta, Utah, I don't think they get that a lot.
No, they don't.
You know what I'm saying? So, but my thing to kind of wrap this thing up, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Okay. We have to do our research as parents.
Yes.
We have to. and we have to understand the dangers and what our kids are facing today, everything from sex, drugs, alcohol, everything that they're going to experience. And love your kids, let them know you're coming from a place of love, and see if you can open that line of communication with them.
I love that.
I'm gonna ditto that. I mean, I don't
Ditto.
know if I can put it any better.
I won't tell you that Max
That Brock wanted to sleep in today and not go.
Are you serious?
Sounds like Brock.
Yeah, are you serious?
I don't know if Brock, are you an all-in guy or a half-in guy? I can't, Hey, let me tell you something. He got there though. That says a lot. He got there though. Hey, and Brock didn't need to come. He came all the way from Arizona to come be with us and do that.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just watching Brock's connections and meeting with people, and I'm just kind of sitting here in awe of all these people that want to meet. We had dinner last night with Coach McBride.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sitting there, I'm thinking,
Let's give him a shout.
I
That
feel
dude is
like
Coach
that dude
McBride.
is
So-
I'm a little bit pissed at Marissa and Brock because I'm like, you guys, you are sitting with greatness here. This
He's
is
a
like-
legend.
Legend. This is
Yeah.
like him and Lavelle. And I'm like, I'm in awe, and they're like, they're just shooting the breeze. And I'm just like starstruck, and I'm like, wow. But I'm watching Brock. You make these connections, and I'm listening to all your phone calls about this event that's coming up in Phoenix in April, and I'm just like, my gosh, serving of inconvenience. You are the ambassador. That's what you do.
Amen.
Yeah, we're blessed. We're blessed. I think this platform is cool.
Yeah.
And there's credibility in this platform. There's realness in this platform. People are hearing it, and the message is getting out. We are coming to Phoenix. We're shooting for April 23rd. We're still looking for a venue. If there's anybody down in Phoenix that can help us with that, I'm gonna throw it out there. But yeah, we're coming. The agents are coming. Blu's coming, and we're just excited about this, man. And if we can shake it up a little bit and just open people's eyes, this is not a taboo topic any
Right.
longer. No.
No.
You know, we watched Antonio Brown have a meltdown a couple weeks ago, and I know there were so many naysayers out there. And all of us were like, man, I hope he's got someone he can talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's we. If it's us, if it's September from Idaho, I mean, whoever it is, what a platform.
Yeah.
So let's keep it going, man.
Absolutely. As you know, the troops are coming. We are the troops listeners. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Please jump on our podcast, leave us a review, share this with people, those that you might know that are struggling with any kind of mental health issues, concerned with alcohol, drugs, consumption, what have you. We are here to help because we are the agents of recovery.